Everybody's looking for love. Whoa, ain't that the reason we're at this club? Alrighty. Here we are. Here we go. Let's get to getting on here. Hi, I'm Brady. I'll be your friend for the afternoon. Welcome back. I feel like I haven't been in this chair in this position in a little while, so I'm gonna make the most of this. You know, simplicity. It's easy to get carried away with your shoots and think you need all these intricate setups to prove that it is a great shot. But that's not the case at all, actually. So I wanted to take this time to maybe touch on that for a second. So a couple weeks ago, I was hanging out with some friends, Brian, Nate, Cam. We were all just really hanging out and trying stuff because I had the red Komodo for a little bit with some Zeiss CP3 lenses, which are beautiful. And we were like, let's just hang out, shoot, have fun, not stress ourselves out, and really have no objective to the shoot except for just enjoy it and make something kind of cool. And with that came very little time schedule and little hands and little lights and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk about, simplicity in this video. And I guess just, give some tips and tricks, if you will, on how to make the most of, one or maybe two lights and still make things look good. So we've got two different scenes out of this little piano project that we were working on. We've got this really cool tone one, and we've got this really cool sunset one. Not cool, warm sunset one. You know what I mean? And both of them were very, very, very simple. And I want to just talk about kind of what made it look so good, because I think it looks beautiful. And it's super simple, but I think it looks gorgeous. So I just want to talk about that. Now let's talk about the cool one first. We've got this really cool, industrial scene, I guess you would call it, grungy piano scene with the piano and cool lighting and backlighting cutting through these holes in the fabric, giving us some volumetric lighting, some through the haze. So I want to talk about all that. Everything is really low key, it's dark, and that's the look we wanted to, and it's hazy and it's grungy. So as far as the lighting setup that we had going on here, what we all set up was just this hard light through this cut up fabric. And that's just motivated by, aesthetic, honestly. We wanted some cool hard light coming through the fabric, creating beams and shafts of light through the haze. So the fabric was super simple. Brian just went out to a fabric store and just got really cheap duvetine or some sort of fabric and just ripped it up and created just kind of random holes throughout it for the light to soon cast through. And then the light that we used actually was an Aputure 300X bicolor light because we wanted that to be cool. And we had that through a spotlight mount as well because we wanted a very sharp direct light. And you can see that this light is casting through this fabric that we cut up. But the reason that it looks so good is that we added just an abundance of haze in the entire room. And haze is going to create these volumetric shafts and really be able to make you be able to see these beams of light coming through. So far, we're kind of just on a very low budget trajectory right now. Just one light in the room, a hard light, open source, and it is made good by just this really cheap fabric with holes cut into it, just hung up on C-stands, and then haze filled throughout the room, and then playing with his head and in camera, back and forth, blocking the light and exposing the light to create these really cool light flares. Now, one more thing, I was looking at it and I was like, this looks beautiful, but I wanted a kiss of light somewhere because I didn't want a total silhouette on cam as he's singing and playing piano. I want to bring some sort of attention to that. So I was like, okay, we don't have much time. What can I do? And I was like, all right, I've got an F22C because I bring those things everywhere because they're beautiful and amazing and just simple and great and lightweight. So I took this F22C and I rigged it up on an Avenger arm overhead, just one of those boom arms, and I had that overhead just out of frame as well. So I had that with just a softbox on it, and I put an egg crate on top of it as well, one of those grids. So my purpose for all of this is I wanted this really upstage light, kind of motivated by this hard light peeking through the duvetine that we were just talking about, but just giving us a soft backlighting or wrap around his face a little bit so we can just see the features as he's singing and see, a little bit more texture on the piano and exposure in the piano and on his hands as well. So I used the softbox to soften this up and make it pleasing, but then I used the grid as well because I didn't want this light to spill throughout the entire room. I just wanted the grid to keep it focused on him and the piano. So two really, really simple lights, and I think I had both of these lights set to about 6,000 Kelvin because we wanted them to be really cool. Now, I was sitting there and I was psyching myself out, and that's kind of the motive behind all of this. I was like, well, there's only two lights and it looks good, but it shouldn't because there's only two lights. And that's when I realized, I was like, okay, it doesn't need to be crazy. Like we can have these simple setups and look really, really good. And then we just added a candle there for contrast, a little bit of glow, just some fun. But essentially that's what we were looking at for that cool scene. Now going to the sunset one, the second one, this house we could only be in for, I want to say, an hour. We had a very, very tight window, and I was like, all right, well, we're working with the time that we have, and Brian was like, we just got to get in and get out, and we couldn't bring any stands into the house. We kind of had to work with it as it was, and that was just the way that it was. So I was like, okay, how can we make this sunset scene? And it was night. Be mindful of the fact that it was dark out. So I was like, okay, well, let's just punch a light in at the piano, so we'll get hard sunset feeling light, and just see where it goes from there. So I took a 600C, an Aputure 600C, and I rigged this up right out the window with a reflector dish, not even a spotlight or anything, just reflector dish, shooting in the window. And I used the blinds that were there, the existing blinds, as just texture. So as with the haze included, as the light's coming through the blinds and through the haze, you really get these like volumetric sun feeling beams of light. So when thinking about it, I was like, okay, but how are we gonna light his face? Because if the sun's coming from his back shoulder, he's going to be really dark. But then all the sheet music that we had on the piano, that was all white, and this acted as a bounce actually. So the light was coming in through the window, bouncing off of the sheet music and onto his face. It was a really pleasing soft wrap of light onto from his far side kind of around to his near side, wrapping around, and it just looked really, really nice. And that's all that we did. We just had one light coming through the window, super simple, through the haze, and the haze kind of created this like overall ambience. And then the light bounced off of the sheet music and back onto Cam's face, and voila, there we go. That was the lighting setup for the entire scene. So very, very simple. And the color temperature of the 600C we had at 4,000 Kelvin. Warm enough to be sunset, but not crazy, crazy warm in tungsten. Both of these were just very fast and very simple. And I just wanted to talk about like not getting caught up with thinking you need all of these like 4, 5, 6 light setups, because it doesn't always have to be like that. It really doesn't. Like less is more most of the time. So use the gear sparingly, because things can look beautiful with a very simple setup. So I guess the message that I want to get across with this is use what you got. If you don't have much, use things like budget items like sheets and rip it up to create texture. Get a haze machine. Even a Halloween haze machine we use all the time. It's just like one of those $30 ones from a Halloween store. It still works great. And then stuff like just using what you've got as household items. The amount of times I run around and I look for something white when I'm on a location just to bounce some light in when we don't have anything. Super simple, super easy. So just use what you got. Don't overcomplicate things. One light, if that's all you got, works great. And make do with it and have fun with it. So that's this video. That's going to complete this video. We're going to wrap this up right now, right here at this very moment. And I thank you for sticking around here. So I'll talk to you next time, and adios. See ya.